the first chapter of the Tao Te Ching, the first line, in fact. Dao ke dao, fei chang dao. The second line, subsequently, Ming ke ming, fei chang ming. In some versions, fei heng ming. The way that we call the way is not the eternal way or the immortal way. And any name that we give something name is not its eternal name. Hello, my friends. My name is Spencer. I'm a maker, and I love stories. Today we're going to be looking at a set of Japanese tales that I truly love by a martial arts enthusiast from Japan from a while back named Issai Chozanshi, which I believe was a pseudonym. And this text is called the Tengu no Geijutsuron, the Tengu's discussion on the arts, or in this case, the martial arts. So a Tengu is a sort of crow-like humanoid being, mythical being, who are all well-versed in the arts, in the ways of fighting. This story by Issai Chozanshi is about a man who seeks to further his martial education by going into the forests where he knows Tengu reside, to try and hear their ruminations, their thoughts on the arts. However, this tale also contains a bunch of very Taoist-inspired sort of folklore that I think we can all get better from. So I'm going to share with you one of my favorites from this book. This is the William Scott Wilson translation of the Tengu no Geijutsuron, which in English we call the Demon's Sermon on the Martial Arts. That's his translation of this title, which I think is quite nice. And this tale is called The Owl's Understanding. So, the only thing we really need to know before going into this story is that in Japan, the owl is considered one of the 48 kinds of hawks. So it's a bird of prey, and whether you consider the owl to be a hawk is, that's your own decision, but that is the categorization that has been given in Japan. And so we have some lovely anthropomorphized animals having a discussion. The hawk said to the owl, "When I look at you, I see that you have a strange shape, a small beak on a round face, wearing a black hood and a hemp overrobe. You look like a Tengu from an island of pygmies. Although you have large eyes, you're blind as a bat during the daytime, and could not even recognize the orb of the sun. You loiter about and are laughed at by the other birds. But you crouch in the thickets by night, catch half-sleeping little birds and eat them. Sometimes you're used by a bird hunter as a decoy and are either attached to a pole or tied to a string. This, too, causes the other birds dawdling nearby to laugh. Miserable bird! Of all the 48 kinds of hawks, I think you must be the most pathetic. I break into a sweat just thinking about you." The owl turned its head and retorted, "Lord Hawk, you are greatly mistaken. Between heaven and earth, there are those who fly in the sky, those who live in trees, those who run on land, and those who swim in the water. There are those who are beautiful and those who are unpleasant to look at. But each and every one of them receives the command of the Creator and was born. It is not as though they had their own choice. If a person could pick physical freedom as he wished, Why would anyone choose to be handicapped in any way? That I look strange and have eyes that cannot see during the day is the nature allotted to me by heaven. How could I be exempt from what the Creator has done? Moreover, the long-tailed maggot makes its home in a pile of shit, while the pinworm lives in a dust heap, and they think of these places as palaces and towers. A snake has no legs, while the earthworm has no eyes or nose. One can see, however, that they get along quite competently. Each and everything given birth by the Creator has been granted food and a lodging place that will not cause it problems. To go beyond itself and envy other beings would be turning its back on heaven. Though my eyes cannot see during the day, they can see quite efficiently with the coming of night. I look for a suitable meal and never go hungry. Although the little birds think I have a strange shape and laugh at me, it's nothing to get mad about. And no matter how much they laugh, it doesn't bother me at all. It's just being laughed at. I do no harm to people's habitations like kites and crows, nor am I praised by men like wild geese and mandarin ducks. Neither am I something to be sought out and captured. From time to time, I am taken by a bird hunter and attached to a pole, and even though I'm shown to the little birds and laughed at, it's not as though the man bears a grudge against me or hates me. Moreover, it's not as though he's cross-grained or doing something out of mischief. He just does this to attract and catch small birds. It is inevitable that being present in this world involves humility. As for the mouse, when I kill one and am about to eat it, I just sit down to my meal without going to any great lengths. On the other hand, when I don't need a meal, I give the mouse a break and don't go chasing after it. You, sir, are a hawk, and, according to your nature, are high-spirited, have beautiful carriage, and are a bird endowed with dignity. You rest on the fist of a feudal lord, or someone entitled, and are different from those birds that make up the meals of the common run. Thus, when you go out into the fields, the pains you must take to capture other birds are far more severe than mine. And even if you capture a bird, it is by no means your own. If you encounter a large bird, you could be downed in a fight and unexpectedly poked in the chest by an incompetent veterinarian hawk specialist, and thus brought to an untimely death. To have my talons bound and to live in a bird cage would be the same for me. Take this single tree. They could cut it down and make half of it into an incense tray. Decorate it with lacquer set with gold or silver filigree, and set it in an alcove of an aristocrat or a man of high rank as a tasteful ornament. The other half they could make into wooden clogs for stepping in through the mud. When you look at two different shapes, one is admired, while the other is considered mean. But they're the same in terms of the cutting down of a living tree. A nearby bird called the chogenbo overheard this conversation. Feeling sorry for the owl, it said, "When I look at you, I cannot say that your shape is elegant. But you have a head, you have a tail, you have wings, you have feet, and you have ears, a nose, and a beak. You are equipped with the entire body of a bird. So we cannot say that you are handicapped. Though your eyes don't see during the day, it is bright enough at night for you to catch fleas. When I look at the many different kinds of birds, the kite is unkempt and full of lice. The spoonbill's beak is nothing like that of other birds, and furthermore, their shapes are disgraceful compared to yours. A quail doesn't have a tail, but the other birds don't laugh at them. They only laugh at you. Are all other birds jealous? Or do they laugh at you because your form is unsightly and your mind lacking in skill, although you're still considered one of the 48 kinds of hawks? Or Perhaps. Is your current unhappiness because of some bad karma in a former life? Ah, how pitiful. The owl said, I don't know what the reason is, but even Lao Tzu said, there is a reality. Men just give it a name. I can see that there's something strange with me, and that the small birds laugh at it, but it's not something I should abhor. Neither have I become especially pleased that I'm numbered among the 48 kinds of hawks. Men have probably named me a hawk because I catch and eat small birds. Yet this is not something I should forcefully decline. It is the owl's appointed task to be laughed at because of men naming it one of the hawks. The man who captures me will nurture me. One who is nurtured by man naturally has his work cut out for him. And shouldn't I return the favor just a little? So this story is filled with wisdom. And much of the wisdom we could spend a lot of time on, but I'm going to focus on a few core aspects of it. First is that the owl is only named one of the 48 kinds of hawks because someone decided that. But it's not something that changed anything about the owl per se, but just the categorization among others. And so therefore the owl, who seems quite enlightened through my eyes, is totally fine with being laughed at. He is the same. He has everything he needs, and he doesn't take more than he needs. Notice that passage about the mouse. When he kills a mouse and eats it, he doesn't go through a whole playing with food torture the way that one might think. And if he's not hungry and he sees a mouse, he gives the mouse a break and he lets him walk on. This argument only was spurred because other birds, specifically another hawk, decided to berate the owl and tell him he was unsightly. But the owl, not once, says anything cruel about any other birds. It is only the other birds that do so. So to even call the owl an owl is to limit this owl. Just as Lao Tzu said in chapter 1 of the Tao Te Ching, the name that we call by a name is not its eternal name. Meaning as soon as you categorize something, you have limited it. You have put it into a box from which it cannot escape in your eyes. And this, Lao Tzu would say, I submit, would go with all matters. Even to call the Tao is to limit the Tao. That is not the entirety of what that is. You calling me by my name, Spencer, might fill you with whatever trappings of any other Spencers you might have known, or what you grow to develop as your understanding of me. However, that's not the entirety of me. And we do use categorizations to understand things, but it is fraught and incomplete in truth. And the owl understands this, and the chogenbo and the other hawk don't seem to. It's a very difficult thing to apply to our lives when we have so many emotional hindrances and we cast judgment ourselves upon others. We categorize things and people and decide whether we like them. And this is incomplete. I hope that we all can learn to be like the owl and understand that we lack nothing. Have a wonderful day, my friends.